Hey guys, it's Taku. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today's topic is types of K-pop album packaging. I've always been in love with packaging, between my movies and books that I collect and rolling into albums, it really is no different. If anything, there's even more variety. I've been collecting K-pop albums since 2019, and while I don't own every album on the market or collect from every group and company, I do have a handful that I really like to share with you guys. They're maybe admired for their packaging or their design, but then there are also some that, I don't like as much as others. We all have that album or two that we bought from this group that, the packaging isn't the greatest, but the music is definitely a hit, and I'm no different here. So today we're going to break down maybe some of the basic types of packaging that you'll see in K-pop albums. They might be divided this way because of cost or creative design, but there are, what I find at least, three main types. And the first one that you'll see a lot is the CD case. This is ATEEZ Dreamers. I'm going to be showing off a lot of different packaging from my collection, so if you collect any of these groups, definitely let me know in the comments. But this is just a CD case. We've seen these for years. They're great for things like singles, Japanese singles, and they're just really small plastic cases, usually really small photo book, but they usually come with a photo card, so they're pretty nice. And if you're not buying a CD case, you're usually also buying a jewel case. And so a jewel case usually gets its name from, at least from what I can understand, the way that the inside pops out, kind of like this. It poses like a stand, so they have a bit more aesthetic edge to them. They also have smoother edges, as you can see here, and a bit more plastic, so they're a bit sturdier. I quite like the jewel cases. But these are two different types of cases that you'll see. Really basic, really easy design, easy to sell, multiple members or multiple versions of. And we also have variants, when I'll talk about a lot of those. But this is an example of ATEEZ's Treasure EP, and this is a CD with a plastic slip cover to it. So it's just one of the many possible variants. Again, I don't own a whole lot of CD cases. I know another one that I have is Blackpink's The Album, but these are just, different types of CD cases, really simple design. Let's go ahead and talk about the second type now that I see most common, and those are books. What are you talking about? Every album comes with a book. Yeah, well, some are more bookish than others. For example, NCT Dream Reload. This is a book by, no stretch of the imagination. This is simply a hardcover book, and the album slot is just right here in the front. Hardcover book, and there are two different types of books even. There are true books, that's what I've been calling it, or there are your book sleeves, as in they are books that are stored in a sleeve. So this is an example of a regular, traditional, good old-fashioned hardcover book. But there are also other books, such as ATEEZ, or not ATEEZ, sorry, this is Ace's Siren Dawn album. I would say this is also a book, where the main feature here is the pages of the book. The album CD is stored right here in the back, and we can also look at SHINee's Atlantis for another example of a book type album. It is an album that is bound on the side and it opens like a book. So this is another true book. Again, rough name, but we can also look at magazines. This is Hello Future from NCT Dream. Magazines have their benefit with large pages that are easy to fold out, but they're usually pretty flimsy and soft cover, and honestly, they're just more cost effective than anything. They don't have a sturdy spine either, so they're not really the most visually aesthetic. But again, if you like being able to pop your pages all the way open, then magazines also do the job. So these are the true books. We can also look at something with a different cut, such as this album, which is Key's Bad Love album. Love this album so much. It actually comes in a really unique package with a cardboard backing to it and a plastic front to make it look like it's a figure on a shelf. But I just took it out here to show you that it is a small book type album. So it opens up just like this. The attraction, again, is the book, and it has a front and back page with binding on this side. I would call that a book for sure. But there are also some that come with sleeves. And let's talk about the book sleeves. So an example of a book sleeve that I have here is right here. This is Stray Kids' No Easy or Noisy album. It is, the main attraction is the book, which is right here. There's the photo book, and it's got, other trays and art book pages, lyric books, but it's in a sleeve. And I differentiate this from our third type of packaging, which is a box, because usually there's an open side to it. And because of this open side, it usually like isn't the sturdiest. You know, if I turn this upside down, obviously the contents pull out. But the main point is that the book is the main attraction here. Another example of a book with a sleeve is Ghost 9. This is now who we are facing. It's their latest album. It's great, by the way. And if you open this up, you'll notice that the main attraction is in fact the book. The book's right here. It's got a tray for an album CD, little envelope for packaging, and otherwise it goes all in this cardboard sleeve. And cardboard isn't the only material these things come in, by the way. You can also buy them in plastic sleeves, which you might actually be even more familiar with. This is NCT's third album. This is Universe, the company-wide album. And if I slip this open, you'll see that the main attraction, surprise, surprise, is a book. It has got a spine, which by the way is really freaking awesome. And when I slip this back in, at the end of the day, the book is the main attraction. It might actually not let me. There we go. But we can also look at different cuts. So this is another example of a hybrid type thing where you have a hardcover book. This is, by the way, I didn't say, this is Super M's first album. And if I open it, it's a photo book. But the main attraction here is the book, and it just has this nice sleeve to keep it intact. And the sleeves are really helpful for aesthetic. It also helps keep everything together. They're slightly nicer to some people than like the magazines are. But I want to talk about our even sturdier packaging. The third type and the most marketable, and those are boxes. This is Super M Super 1. This is their second album, which is also great. And I call this a true box. Now, what defines a box? A box to me has sealed sides, whereas a book has open sides or is really flimsy. So for this one, if I were to flip it in the air, you know, rotate it around, everything's staying in. It's a box. It has a true lid right here that comes off, making it, you know, basically a true box. And the difference is that the focus is kind of on the box itself. You're first drawn to this before, you know, like with a CD, you know that there is a CD book right here. It's the book that you're after. Whereas with this, it's maybe the box. It's got all the different things inside of it. It's got all the bells and whistles. In fact, boxes usually allow for more additional type things to be added, such as filler boxes with all different types of goodies, lyric books, you name it. It's got a lot of different things. And this is just one type of box here on the market. This again is just a true box. It's got an open top lid that comes down on it. You can also look at other boxes though, like AT's Treasure. This is All to Zero, another one of my favorite albums. But this is a true box, I would say. Has a lid that comes off and it's got a window. So it's just a slightly different variant of what we know. But it also has, if I open it, a bunch of different postcards. This might not be something that's available in something like a book, but it also does have its own little photo book here. Again, these are really nice. A lot of people like boxes. The only problem with boxes is that they usually take up a lot of space. But honestly, if you're into K-pop as much as I am and you're buying albums, you're probably willing to make a little bit of room. Another type of box that we have is what I call like a half down lid. So this is an example of a half down. Notice that with the previous boxes, they seal all the way to the bottom. They are equal on both sides, whereas BTS's School Love Affair Special Edition is a half lid. So if I were to take this off here, you'll notice that it is a true box with a lid, but it only comes halfway down. And it has some disadvantages to it, you know, such as it doesn't always have the most pleasing spine to look at unless they actually labeled it. So this one doesn't. But this is just an example of a half down box. Now we can also look at things with entirely different like lids to them. So these are what I call like box lid albums. An example of this with its incredible size is BTS's Map of the Soul 7. It is a true box because it is sealed on all sides. And while it may feel like a book, the attraction is on the box, which again is perfectly sealed on all sides, and it opens up with a lid to reveal all different kinds of contents inside. So this again is just an example of a box lid album. They're all technically lids, but I think these are more lidish than others. So I'm going to put this one off to the side. We're going to look at another one with a more creative type clasp. Oh, actually, I did want to mention that. Usually with these box lids, they're going to have some kind of clasp or sealant here, and we'll talk about the ones that don't. But this one for BTS's album, it relies on a pressure that brings it closed. And part of that is because they wanted to make a lot of the album from recycled materials. And if you put things like magnets in it, it's not obviously able to do that. So keeping with the theme, it's designed with a pressure sealing side that relies kind of on a little bit of physics. If we looked at something like this though, we see that it's got a window and a magnet side while also still being a box lid album. This is Enhypen's Border Carnival. Love this album. It's so pretty. And if we open this up, it is a box by definition, and it's got a bunch of different little things, posters, photo book, all that kind of stuff in it. You know, your typical things that would come in an album. This is a really great packaging design. I really like this one. But we can also look at other more simpler boxes. This is Kim Woo-seok's Greed. And I want to bring this up because there are two different albums here. This is Kim Woo-seok's second album, and this is his first. And one of the things that the team did was change the box design across different eras. So sometimes they'll keep the same design of the packaging, but for this one, they opted for two different ones, even though this is the first Desire and the second Desire. So for the second Desire, they did a true box where it is just a box with contents and it has a lid that goes on it like that. For the first one, they did a box lid, but it's a little frustrating because it just falls out. It's a box by definition, but it has no kind of seal or wrap over it. So sometimes when I pick this one up, if I accidentally turn it sideways, everything falls out and it's a bit of a mess. That's why you have one of two options usually for these things. The first is, as we can see in the case of Dimension Dilemma from Enhypen, you can put a magnet on it. If I turn this over, it is a box lid with a magnet and a very bright photo book. Has all of the contents inside, and it usually won't fall out. So there is the magnet box, and there's also a box with a clear sleeve. And this is, arguably less desirable if you don't like plastic sleeves. I don't love them. They're not my favorite thing. But this keeps everything sealed inside. And so you can see it has no clasp, no magnet either. But because of the sleeve, it does keep everything intact, if I can get it back in its case. And what the sleeve does also is it adds a visual design element where here on the Fever logo, they can strike things through. I'm having a time getting that on, but you can see that they've stricken through some of these because it's going to be a 3-part era. So this is the first. But we can also look at different types of boxes. This is the last variant. This is an open side. We actually kind of saw this with the Stray Kids one I showed earlier. But usually these are common with Japanese releases because they modeled them, I believe, off of their Japanese Blu-ray and DVD market, which is a true, box with one side cut out. So it is a hard box. And if I pull out the side, it does remind you of a DVD, does it not? I mean, it feels like you're opening up like a movie or something. But this is an open side box. Again, I consider it a box because everything's kept sturdy in this. So I just wanted to show you guys that. But within, of course, the world of K-pop albums, we also have many different types of variants and hybrids, or maybe some with really cool designs. An example of this is BTS's Butter album. This was recently released for the first time, and I'm sure everyone knows this album. It's so great, but it got a lot of flack from some people for the minimalist packaging. This was until BTS and Big Hit announced that they wanted to do a hashtag decorating contest to go along with it. So it is purposefully designed with this canvas type texture so that you can paint on it or do whatever you want. I actually just did mine the other day, and I did it up in Permission to Dance style. So you can see that they wanted people to do all kinds of cool things utilizing this canvas texture, like painting and drawing on it, and thus it makes sense for it to be a box with a canvas lid and a magnet side here. So that is one type of reason you might do like a variant on a packaging. Another one, this is a really cool album. I actually did an unboxing for it a while ago. This is Ace's fourth mini album, The Butterfly Fantasy. It is, by definition, a true book. I would consider it almost a magazine type of book, but it does have a spine, which makes it nice. But they've cut off the tab here on the side, and it mimics the style of a very traditional type of pamphlet. If you know Japanese or even Chinese, I guess ancient Asian texts, they might have a piece cut out of it. And so what that does is it gives this album, which is traditionally designed, to also mimic a traditional packaging. It's cool how the two marry each other in that regard. Another album that's really cool in that respect is Blackpink's The Album. This is the box version, very colorful on the front, but it's cool because it's designed with this ultra thick middle, even though some people say it's a waste of space, because when you open it up, it's supposed to be like a jewelry box. Hence why there is a big jewel here. It's kind of on this, not holographic, but that kind of material that like when you flip it, it changes design. But the point is that it's extending that it's a jewelry box, essentially. And that's the story that the packaging wants to tell. It's something that is very luxurious, very shiny, very pristine, and the outside definitely reflects that. The extra thickness actually helps it in this case. We can also look at really weird albums, like Yoonha's album. This is Rescue. I love this album so much, and you're probably wondering, like, what type is this, since so much of it is cut out? That's a really good question. I think it's actually probably a book with a book sleeve, because if we take all this out, the album actually just hangs out in a little fold like that. Again, I have it taken off, but that's just a foam core where the album would go, and all of these contents, which are actually served, I believe, as a puzzle piece. You can kind of like arrange them however you want and put whichever design you like first. But that is an example of utilizing a really big open window to convey this idea of art, a traditionally like museum packaging, and it's even got a frame here that you can set up like an art piece. So it's a really cool album. Another type of hybrid that we have with utilizing those book sleeves is Baekhyun's album. And this actually isn't my favorite packaging. It's usually an O card type of material, but it only goes halfway down, which means that sometimes the material slides around a bit, especially since I have a poster taken out of it. So it's not the greatest packaging in my opinion, but it does focus the main attraction here on the book, and it is just kept in this sleeve that is, you know, it's a little hard to tell where the front begins and where the side. That's part of the city street aesthetic that they're going for, but it is a bit of a confusing package if you don't know basically how to navigate around it. Another one that is really cool that is kind of a hybrid is BTS's Persona album. This one's really cool because it utilizes kind of this book sleeve idea, but then you can remove the photo book from it. So here is the book. It's not glued in or anything. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And if I actually like put this back in here, it slides right in like that. And it utilizes a soft pink and a nice matte touch to give it the feel of Persona, of love, of comfort, along with their era. So it makes sense that their packaging is kind of designed in that way. Moving on to the last two that I really like is School Love Affair Special Edition. This one's cool because it combines several elements, like having a sturdy chipboard outside, and it has the magnet clasp that folds out, as well as the photo book. I would say that the only disadvantage to this album is that you can't take the photo book out because they do have it glued in. But otherwise, it's a really nice, slim packaging that also does get to utilize or showcase its front design. And so I really like this package, actually. I kind of wish they would go back to doing this, or that more albums would mimic this style in the future. It really is one of my favorites. And then you have two other type of hybrid packaging. I just did an unboxing for this. Love this album so much, and I really like this packaging, actually. This is the SMCU Express, or SM Town's 2021 Winter album. This is the multi-variant, jack of all trades. There's all the different groups. You can buy a bunch of these, and this is the full company-wide album. But you'll notice that it is like a true box until you start folding it open and watching it unfold itself, revealing the train window here and the subway train here. And because of the metallic texture of the photo book and the way that the contents are laid in this like cardboard type of texture, it gives it a very industrial feel. And I think that this industrial feel actually helps kind of promote the theme that they're going for. All the contents are locked inside, although the packaging, to some people does feel quite cheap. And then if we looked at this one is like a manila folder type of packaging. It uses a sticker, which I absolutely despise because I hate ripping up stickers. I wish it had like a tab instead. But it is its own weird type of book sleeve because on the inside, I could open it, but the inside, the main focus is a little book inside. So again, just a really weird type of hybrid packaging. And so the last part of this video that I want to focus on is just looking at maybe one group or one company that kind of does it all. And that, of course, is Tomorrow by Together. They have lots of different album packaging, lots of different hybrids. It's a little frustrating if you're a MOA, but they've made a lot of the sizes actually compatible with each other, so they sit on a shelf. So this is what I would say, is a book sleeve or a true box. You can kind of count it as either, depending on how you want to look at it, but it uses a hardcover there with a sleeve to keep everything in, much like one of the other albums that we looked at. And if we look at their second album, they've opted for a full box. This is a true box album. And part of the reason they did this, well, for this one, it's a Star album. And they wanted that holographic texture here. And you really get to see like that rainbow bit. It's not very showing up on camera, but trust me, in real life, if you saw this, it's very shiny. If we look at this one, they wanted to create the effect of a traditional magic box, where when you open it, you can see all of the tricks and gadgets maybe that a magician would use. It's really cool, kind of throwback content like this that makes it a really neat album to kind of have on your shelf. It feels like it is a magic box of tricks. And then if we look at the third album in their series, they opted for a true book with a hardcover box and even a lock here, which is kind of frustrating, but it's really cool because the idea of curses and enchantments really come through in the Dream Chapter Eternity, which those are part of the themes, is that there's this ongoing theme of magic and, dark sorcery kind of thing. A forbidden art for sure that is accented by the packaging. But when you put all of them together, look how consistent they are. So Big Hit really has designed this to be really accessible and easy to collect for people while also having tons of different styles of packaging. It looks nice on the shelf and it's very creative to look at. If we look at their second era, sliding into the Blue Hour, we have this really cool box that they did. It's a limited edition run of it, but if we open it up, they did a half size plastic sleeve that actually has these annoying tabs that I really don't like, and it's a cut photo book like that. We'll save that in mind for a second, because when they bring out their other era, which is TXT Freeze, they utilize the same packaging in a different type of way. This one has the same tabs that I'm not really a huge fan of, but it has a frosted texture. It has a frozen texture. It's TXT Freeze. And so this album actually really works to that advantage, where you can put, your favorite member on the back. If not, you'll have the frost kind of glossy texture here. It's really cool how they did that, and they utilized this texture to bring out the content. And this one is, a little less creative, but they opted for a more sturdy design. Again, this is the second album in the series, or I guess the third, depending on how you look at it. This is the Chaos Chapter Fight or Escape. And with this repackage album, they opted for a clear sleeve, a book sleeve here, and a hardcover book. And if I open it up, they do have the book glued in, so you can thumb through it like that. So here they're opting more for a secure and sturdy design, while also still trying to match the height of this one. So there's lots of different styles of K-pop packaging. I only looked at a handful of them, from boxes to CDs, and everything in between, something that might utilize both. But guys, definitely let me know what your favorite packaging in K-pop is. There's so much that the industry has to offer, so much that I didn't even look at. There's so many cool packages out there, and some very frustrating ones. So if you have any thoughts on this video or on the 3 different main types of packaging that I see, which are books, cases, and boxes, definitely let me know in the comments. I'd love to expand maybe the discussion or my knowledge on this. Yeah, I just think it's really cool to look at things like packaging and aesthetic design. And maybe I'll even do a part 2 and describe, maybe what designs went into the packaging from that I could guess of that enhance or maybe work against the concept at play. Again, there's lots of design choices that deliberately get made, and some of them are definitely better than others. So thank you so much for watching this video, and till next time.